relationship between local law enforcement and law enforcement in general with the community. That's not how we create safe communities. Are there other things that we're looking at? Absolutely. Are we going to make sure that we do our part as a local law enforcement to continue to engage in constitutional policing and building those relationships so that we can continue to drive violence down? Absolutely.
And on your
William, can you get off the phone? William?
Can you get off the phone, please? Sir?
Is he okay?
William Kelly, is he okay?
William,
Can you get off the phone?
oh, yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, I got you.
And on your executive order yesterday, if they, I know that it was mentioned that you will take people to court if federal officials violate that executive order, but is there any thought that if they do violate it, that there could be more extreme responses, such as directing CPD to intervene and to get federal officials off of those
Well, first of
properties?
all, if they violate our local ordinance, this would be a criminal and a civil offense. And yes, we're going to see people in court, right? As far as other authority that allows for us to be able to enforce this ordinance, we're exploring.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
How are you?
Wonderful. You all did a wonderful job last night. Shout out to Brandis. Yep.
Thank you for coming on the show. We
course.
appreciate it. After Superintendent Snelling's press conference, I wanted to ask you to clarify the sort of the rules of engagement for Chicago police when there's an immigration enforcement activity and the police are called. Back in August, at the end of August, Superintendent Snelling said that when the police department gets those calls, they will send a supervisor to the scene to sort of assess whether there's a public safety threat. And if there is, then officers will be dispatched. Is it your understanding that that policy was followed on Saturday, and is that policy still in effect?
Well, when the police department was called to arrive on the scene, they did. As I indicated yesterday, whenever a 911 call is dispatched to the local commanders, our local law enforcement shows up to do what they do, which is to serve and to protect the peace. The protocol that we put in place was necessary to reassure people that we are following the local ordinance while also making sure that we are fully assessing the circumstances which can ultimately lead to a full determination. That protocol is still in place, and in fact, we saw it on display this Saturday. You know, what's disturbing about all of this is the fact that you had the federal government unleashing tear gas against police officers. I believe it was more than 24 officers were impacted. This is unconscionable. The President of the United States of America is literally pitting law enforcement against law enforcement. That's not the way it's supposed to be. So that's why we had to put this clear protocol in place so that everybody knows that when our police department shows up, their first job is to make sure that that scene is protected and people are being serviced. In the event that scene begins to become clear that this is an ICE operation, obviously, without a criminal warrant, our local law enforcement will not dub as federal ICE agents.
Tonight, the Cubs are taking on the Brewers. Come on, Cubs. And, of course, the marathon is not too far away.
Yeah.
Will the city be making changes to its security plans for the marathon in particular, given the looming deployment of National Guard troops and the continuing ICE strike team operations?
Yeah, thank you for that question. The first part of it, was a little triggering, but look, we hold large-scale events in our city all the time, and we do it better than anyone else, right? And so our counterintelligence, our chief DeVries does an excellent job communicating with our chief of patrol as well as our chief of detectives. All of that is funneled up to Superintendent Snelling to ensure that anything that we see or hear that is coming through the different channels in which we investigate, that we are maximizing safety and security. So I feel strongly about our ability to be able to hold large-scale events and the strategic security measures that we're putting in place are to ensure that we continue to hold the reputation of hosting large-scale events. The last thing that I'll say is, of course, when the Cubs win tomorrow in Game 3, that we celebrate, with some level of control, because we have to win 2 more games after that. And we've gotten word that roughly 3,000 runners from Mexico have signed up for this marathon. And I want all of them to come. I want them all to come. I believe the best way in which we can demonstrate resistance is not bending the knee to tyranny. Now, what you've heard, though, from our Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce, they have spoken very candidly, because I believe the larger point that you're making about safety also is attached to our economy, that what President Trump is doing, he's literally undermining the economic prowess of cities like Chicago, right? I mean, so we're encouraging everyone to get out and celebrate, and our police department working in collaboration with the federal government to ensure that we are keeping people safe.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
A video was circulating this weekend of ICE attempting to detain a person and failing after community members were protesting. They were pulling on the man's arms to try to keep him from being pulled into what appeared to be an unmarked SUV, and they succeeded. ICE drove away. It seems people who are concerned their family members are being, quote, abducted by ICE are more and more taking matters into their own hands. And I'm just wondering, how do you recommend residents act in moments